We got one person so far. Get a couple more to join, then we'll start. Alan, do you remember how to see the comments on it?
I cannot. You have to swipe somewhere.
Alright, let me try to see if I can see comments real fast. I have no idea. I'll figure it out. How's everyone tonight? Someone can maybe type something, see if maybe a comment pops up, see if I can see anything. I'm going to probably start in another minute, regardless of how many people are watching, just to kind of get it going. Alan, can you check to see if anyone's saying?
Do you see it? Hey.
I do not see it. So let me see if I can figure this out real fast.
Swipe somewhere.
This is experimenting. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I see it. Thanks, Kayla. Alright, so tonight we're going to be talking about witchcraft on a budget. This is something that was brought up in the group. Someone posted, I believe it was a meme, about, you know, what it basically is required to be a witch, what you need, that you don't need expensive tools or ingredients to work your magic, which is absolutely true. You do not have to go broke doing what we do. Kind of to start, we'll just go through the history of witchcraft, where it was started, why it was started, and then kind of show you what you can do to do your work very economically, especially in these times where, you know, people might be out of a job or struggling a little bit to catch up from the pandemic. So I feel like this is pretty important. So to start, witchcraft was basically folk medicine. It started out as folk medicine, and people would just use what they had. This wasn't something that they would go out of their way to get, exotic ingredients for or special tools for. It was just what you had around your house. You were doing your work with that. So you can definitely take your practices back to that kind of origin, and still have it be powerful and effective. And we can even reduce it even further to just using what you already have in your cupboard that you use every day anyways. So kind of just to run through the quick little list of things that you have that you do not need to buy when it comes to doing witchcraft. The first and foremost that people always associate with witchcraft is the cauldron. So cauldrons are expensive. They do look nice, but you're going to spend anywhere between, for a big size cauldron, they can range anywhere from $60 to a couple $100. So that's a big deterrent for people to do any kind of working with cauldrons. But you basically have everything you would need. Hi Julie, how's it going? Everything you need to do any kind of cauldron work you have in your kitchen already. So for example, when I use cauldrons, I do have some of the cast iron ones, just because I personally, I like the artistry of them, but most of the time they're used as, I usually get smaller ones, they're used as like vessels, stuff like that. If I'm going to be brewing something, it's not very practical. I hate washing iron. I hate trying to maintain it. So I usually will shy away from doing anything in a cast iron cauldron, unless it's something like, for example, if I'm doing a workshop and I want to just add a little bit more extra witchy flair or something. What I personally typically use, you know, any of you who have been camping will be very familiar with these, is these little camping pots. So this is where I usually do all of my brews and stuff. I have several of these. They're very cheap. You can usually find them in like thrift stores, stuff like that. And this can do everything that a cast iron cauldron would do. In fact, even better, because it's really easy to maintain. It's enamelware, so it's really durable. You can burn your incense in there if you like to use your cauldron for that. You can do teas, potions, brews, anything that you would need can be done in this. Now, if you don't want to go out of your way to find one of these, like let's say, you know, money's really tight and you really just can't, you don't have any extra, I usually will set aside just a regular, this is another one that I use in a lot of my workings, just a regular kitchen pan. I mean, that's basically what a cauldron is. It's just an antique pot. This is where they would cook their food. This is where they would do all of their, you know, household things, heating water, all that good stuff. So you already have all of your cauldrons in your kitchen. So don't be discouraged if you don't have a cast iron, you know, really Halloween witch looking cauldron. This is going to be perfect. It's going to do everything you need it to do. In fact, it's going to do it better. There really is no more advantage to having a cast iron cauldron. Even the iron itself, you know, our kitchen pots are usually made out of steel, which contains iron. So if you're concerned about not having that iron property, it's still going to be in there. Yeah, so what I do is I have several of these brewing pots, the enamel ones. Typically I have one for stuff that's going to be poisonous, that's something non-edible, and then one that's for all-purpose things that you would use basically like food grade, like that's food safe. You do want to kind of keep that consideration, so if you do work with any poisonous herbs or ingredients, you definitely want to make sure that you're keeping whatever you're brewing them in separate. Just because any kind of trace stuff, you just, you know, you don't want to mess around with that kind of stuff. But yeah, so these, I actually got them off of eBay. I think I paid $4 a piece for each of them. Some common names that you can search instead of cauldron when you're doing online shopping is bean pots. So these will come in, you can put iron bean pot or just bean pot. You'll find like a whole array of ceramic ones. I think that's what this is. I think it was under bean pot, but I think I might have put camping kettle or something. But yeah, so bean pot is going to be a big one. So if you put iron bean pot, you're going to find lots of actual cauldrons that are called that, really cheap. Another one is Dutch ovens. So these are typically the more flat cauldrons. So it's a little bit more shallow, but it does have a lid. Those are used for actually cooking food when you're camping. So if you want to search for those. Typically when you're looking for your magical supplies, if you search under their mundane terms, you're going to find a lot more cost-effective suppliers than you would from occult suppliers. And also, if you just wanted, let's say you don't do a lot with like potion making or brews and you just use it for incense, you can easily find those little cast iron cauldrons everywhere, and they're really inexpensive. They're usually like, you know, anywhere between a few dollars to maybe at the most like $15. Another thing is a lot of times I've come across these in thrift stores. I've gotten probably 3 cauldrons out of thrift stores, and they've usually ranged from, again, like $4 to $15. So they're usually very inexpensive when you go to thrift stores to get that. And then stirring wise, I just use, this is from the dollar store, just one of those wooden spoons. Again, I keep one for food grade, one for non-food grade, just because you don't want to mix them up. So very easy. That's a super simple one that you already have, so no money, so that's free. Another thing that people usually get hung up on is having a really nice witchy looking besom, or basically just broom. That's when we're looking at the history of what a witch's broom was, it was their house broom. It was the broom that you swept with. It was a mundane object that they use for supernatural purposes. So your house broom is your besom. In fact, it's going to be way more powerful than one that you buy that's more decorative, that's not serving the function of actually sweeping your house. Now, if you do, let's say you have a really nice one, try to actually use it as the mundane function, because you do want to have that literal cleaning energy with it. So you don't just want to have one that's purely decorative that you only use for ritual, because this is supposed to be your, it's supposed to carry over into your regular life as well. So when you're cleaning your house with a ritually consecrated broom, like your regular house broom, you're also putting that intention of spiritually cleaning it as well. So that's another thing you don't have to go out of your way for. That I see a lot of people coveting, really nice brooms when you already have a really nice one in your house. So don't, neglect it or abandon it. There's a lot of folklore associated with the broom of your house. Basically, it becomes an implement of your house spirit. And a lot of people suggest that when you move, you leave the broom behind and you get a new broom. I don't do that because we have a really nice one that actually the people before we moved in left it here, but we're totally going to take it when we move, just because I really like it. All right, so branching from the simpler tools, and if anyone has any questions on specific tools and stuff that they have a hard time finding or find themselves in need of something, put it in the comments and I'll address it, because I'm just like winging it at this point. I myself personally did go through a lot of hard times, especially when I first started practicing, so I know what it's like to need to kind of find shortcuts into your magical tools. So the next thing, that probably the next most expensive thing that people think that they need in their practice, is statues and venerating images. This is something that you do not have to spend a whole lot of money. In fact, it could be just dollars to get your cult image, your altar images. So I'll kind of go over what I've done in the past and go from there. So my very first ever image that I used for the goddess, I got from the dollar store way back in the day, and it is actually just a clear glass Nativity Mary. So at this point in time, when I was collecting all this stuff, I was heavily into Mists of Avalon, and this kind of had that whole vibe, so I was like, this is perfect. So even if it's not necessarily specifically a pagan god, stuff like this you can use for your cult images. So it's just about keeping your eyes open, trying to find something that resonates with you that you can repurpose to your own needs. Another thing that I do is I repurpose thrift store find statues. One of my favorites to turn into various deities, which you will always find everywhere, is the statue of David. This one has become Helios. So just with a little bit of paint, this statue was probably like $10 at a thrift store, and I just kind of painted him gold, and we added this little sunburst behind him that you can kind of make, and super simple, awesome. You put your energy into it, you get creative, and you have your temple room adorned with awesome stuff. Horned helmets. Yeah, horned helmets and that type of stuff is extremely easy to actually make yourself. You don't have to really go out of your way to purchase one, especially if you live by the woods or you live in a wooded area. Constantly be on the lookout for like deer skulls or animal skulls. Get in touch with local farms. See if they have, like, depending on the type of horn or antler you need, you can look for like goat horns. If you find a goat farm, they will usually, just have plentiful stuff like that. Another easy hack for horns that you can make a horned helmet with is actually going to Petco and getting dog treats. They usually sell antlers and goat horns really cheap, a lot cheaper than you're going to find. The good thing about if you get goat horns from Petco is it's just the outside actual horn. It doesn't have the marrow that's in the horn that's attached to the skull, so it's already lightweight and hollowed out. All you would need to do is outfit it to like with a piece of leather or something like that, so that you can make like a really awesome headpiece with it. I actually have several goat horns that I'm planning on doing cool stuff with. I'm just basically too lazy to do it, and I don't really know when I'm going to have time to do that with the book coming out. But hey, Alan,
Yeah.
can you grab the little circlet that's in my altar? It's like the black leather thing. I'll kind of show you where I'm at with it. It's literally, I think it just fell out when I was getting stuff, so it'll be out down there. Yeah, it's like the little crown that we use for the cards. So I started making the base myself, and I was really hung up with like how difficult it was going to be to do this, but it was so easy. So all this is actually what I'm going to secure the horns to. All this is, I believe this is 16 gauge multi-purpose wire, super cheap. You can get it at any hardware store. If you get it from a craft store, you will get a smaller amount, but it will be kind of more expensive in comparison to if you got a giant spool that you can use all the time. This is a piece of leather from, I believe, Michael's, also very cheap. All you would do is just poke the holes in there and then feed craft wire through it. So the craft wire you can get at the dollar store. It's usually like floral wire or anything like that. This one was conveniently black in color. Sometimes it's green if you don't mind it being green. Usually you cover this up with something anyways. The good thing about this is you customize it to your head, so you're basically making it perfect for you. And then once you get the goat horns or the antlers that you want, you just basically affix them to this. And that's a really easy process. If you have any kind of tools, it's even easier. Or you can just, fit them however you would want and then secure them either with a layer of leather or just gluing the crap out of it and covering it up. Because this is, it'll be sturdy and it's ritual wear. It's not like you're going to be like going into actual battle with it. So you can really find hacks like hot gluing stuff, like just covering it with hot glue is really going to, and then like obviously decorating it afterwards so that you can't see it. That's going to be a really good way. I use hot glue in a lot of my stuff to secure it because it's really strong. And if you ever wanted to change it, you can easily change whatever you put on there. So if you're not feeling antlers anymore, you want to go to goat horns, you just pop them up. Did that answer your question? Is this kind of what you were thinking? Something like this? Because you can actually even make this into a helmet with different materials. So if you get like another piece of leather, you can close this off. This took maybe, I would say, 45 minutes to get to this point. So it was really, really easy. I was just procrastinating it. And this piece of leather right here was already cut to this length. And in fact, I think you can, if you really wanted to, you can probably just go to the thrift store and find a thick leather belt and use that for this material that's in here. So I just literally thought of that. I wish I would have done that. Save you a lot more money. So, but yeah, so when you're dealing with witchcraft, effort is everything, and especially if you're making these supplies yourself, the effort is putting your intentions into it, and it's actually forming a bond with your tools. So it's actually even better to make all this stuff than it would be to buy it anyways. All right, so so back to like your cult images. Another thing that I do, and this is kind of like for all the usually for my main pantheon of gods, I have statues. That's not always the case. Sometimes you just can't find statues of your deities, or they're really expensive for nice ones. So another really easy thing that I do is I just print pictures. So you get these cool frames from the dollar store, find out whatever size you like, and then print a picture off the internet and frame it. And this is now your cult image. So this will be your altar image. Very little money, so you're spending like $1 on the frame, whatever you pay for the paper and ink, and then you're good to go. And the good thing about this is if you have a particular image that you love, you can just print it off. Most artists will not give you a hard time if you're using images on your altar, if you're not reselling something. If you know who the artist is of a piece that you want to use, if you want to reach out to them and ask them if you can use it for personal use, more often than not they're going to say you can. But this is a lot of my shrines have framed pictures for the altar image. What you can do is, so if you basically you're just creating a sympathetic link to your deity through the image itself. So it doesn't have to be a statue necessarily. If you wanted to give it a little bit more life, you can create like little spiritual vessels. We covered this before. Create a spiritual vessel, and then I usually tuck it right here where the frame thing is. So you would just stick it back here so it's nice and hidden and behind the image itself, and you're channeling the power through that. Let's say, you didn't want to even get the frame, something like that. Another thing that I did, and my sisters will recognize this instantly, we went to a wedding and they had the little placeholders. So they give you like the little thing with your name in it. And it came with a cool frame. And I was like, I'm going to keep this frame and I'm going to use it for altar images. So this was the perfect size for just a little shrine that I had to Arachne. So what I did was I just took my name out of there. I got this little pin with Arachne on it, and I stuck her in there. So this was, if you're at an event where you're allowed to take stuff, or like, especially like weddings where they have these little frames and people don't want them, stock up, because you can use these whenever you need to do rituals. Even, like, let's say it's a deity that you don't normally work with, but you need to do something for a specific holiday or festival. Something like this, just having them on hand, just having like a ton of them will, be a lifesaver in that situation. And they look nice, and it's again, you can always put little charms and stuff around it to kind of really add to the energy. Another thing that I like to do is prayer cards. So I framed prayer cards. They fit in these perfect little 2x3 frames that you get at the dollar store. Most prayer cards will do this. There are a few vendors who sell deity prayer cards. We're one of them at the Voodoo store. Like this one is the Morgan and Dagda. Since I don't really work with them too much, I just threw, this is what's adorning their altar. But yeah, just if you want to frame little prayer cards for your altar images, stuff like that, you don't have to get huge, elaborate statues to work with. Your gods will communicate with you through framed pictures. So it's about just building that connection, showing that reverence, and really calling out to them. So once you get your altar images, you can start getting into the little things on your altar. And this is where you're just going to need to keep your eye out whenever you're out and around. So most of the stuff, I would say probably 80 to 90% of the stuff that's on our altars, if you've ever seen our altars, we have several of them. We got it from thrift stores. There's a thrift store right up the street from our house. There used to be one on the corner, and we would be there all the time just getting random things. Like if we saw little plates and, cups and chalices, sometimes there would be like, 6 of these like little tiny cups in a set, and you'd get them all for like $4. We would get it, and then that we would disperse it amongst our altars. Super, super inexpensive to furnish your altars. Just write a list what you need. Write a list of specific things that you want to look for, and then whenever you go out, just check them off. We kind of went through phases where we would randomly get those little like metal, I guess they're like sugar bowls with the lids. Everybody got a sugar bowl in our house because that's what we made their spiritual vessels in. We went through a little phase where we got the fondant pots, because they had really cool stands that you can use for cauldrons that kind of look like this. So you'd put like the little flame source here, put your cauldron up here, and then brew all your stuff. So we bought a ton of those really cheap at thrift stores. And also use stuff around your house again. So it doesn't have to be difficult. You can use just your regular cups that you have for libations, regular bowls. As long as you're putting the effort into it, your spiritual forces are going to kind of recognize that, and they're going to appreciate it. Yeah, see, Michelle, you recognize these little things. All right, so does anyone have any questions on things that you want, like you need ideas for as far as like altars and like the actual tools of witchcraft, because I want to kind of get through this, without, because I could spend forever doing this, and I kind of don't, want to keep everyone that. Oh, another thing I want to bring up was all of your like pentacles and any kind of symbols that you work on, terracotta dishes. These are a lifesaver. We use these all the time. You can paint them. So at one point we painted all of them the color of whatever deity they were kind of going on. It's a fun little project. It became very impractical over time because our altars expanded, but we still have a bunch of those. And then if you're ever working with like, you need to put a sigil or a symbol on something, these are perfect for that. And you like do your working on this. A lot of different sizes, can be washed, cleaned off, reused. So I highly recommend stocking up on just regular terracotta dishes. That's probably one of the most things we have in this house are terracotta dishes. And then of course, like things like wands and stuff like that, you can make, we all have access to sticks, they're around us all the time. If you don't have a tree within, walking distance, then you have bigger concerns than finding tools, but you can adorn them how you want. This is like an oak one, I think, that I got. Oh, no, I think this is one of my people willow. But I found this on a walk one time. I took all of the bark off, and then, put a crystal on here. I actually used Elmer's wood glue. It's been on there for a few years now, so I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, this is just a stick you find, so you don't need anything super elaborate. If you don't have crystals, you don't really need one. Just kind of make sure it tapers out so you can direct your energies with it. I haven't used this one in forever, but I do have several other ones. The next thing that a lot of people have a hard time with is the more ingredient-based side of witchcraft, because this can get really expensive to go out and get all the different kinds of herbs and stones and crystals and everything that you see on social media. People saying, "Oh, look, I'm doing witchcraft, and here's like my big bowl of this expensive herb or resin or something." That's all good to have. It's good to have a wide variety of herbs, but when you really come down to it, if you're working, you're doing work for yourself or for others, you have access to everything you would need. So to kind of give you some ideas on what you can do for that, I kind of just went through our house and picked up stuff that we already had. Now for jars, jars are the easiest thing to acquire because literally most stuff that we get comes in jars. This was like, I don't know, like a tapioca or rice pudding or something. We saved that jar. I know that at TJ Maxx they sell like salt a lot of times in these, and whenever we go to TJ Maxx and we see these, we buy pretty much all of them because they look cool and they have a lot of room, so you can actually fill them with a lot of stuff. So you basically use the salt for your rituals or your workings, and then you keep the jars and you reuse them. And then, yeah, we've had these probably for the last 10 years at least, but we have a ton of them. So jars should not be a problem. You should always be able to find jars that you need. Pickle jars, jelly jars, anything that you have around the house. Once it's done, don't throw that jar away, reuse it. And you will never need for a jar again. So let's talk about herbs. One of the foundations of witchcraft is definitely working with plants and herbs, making them into amulets, charms, poppets, you name it. There are a lot of us will have a good core foundation of herbs already in our kitchen cabinets. So it's just knowing the properties and it's knowing what you would use it for. For example, like most people will have powdered cinnamon. So you can use this in your witchcraft. Fantastic for healing, money, love, all that good stuff. Now, a lot of times people get caught up on these exotic salts. I mean, sea salt really is not an exotic salt. But a lot of people are like, oh, you need sea salt when you're doing workings. Regular salt doesn't work. It does work. There's no reason to think that this will not do anything just because it's been ionized. But it's still going to do whatever you need it to do. This can be your salt. So don't go crazy thinking that you need to buy sea salt, which is more expensive typically. And just, use what's in your cupboard. So really good for cleansing, all that good stuff. If you need to curse someone, you might as well go for your ground black pepper. If you have additional peppers like cayenne or the red pepper, you have everything you need to do a curse. You know, a lot of times people are like, ooh, you need like datura and belladonna and, you know, all these poisonous plants. You can use rat poison, you can use pest poison, anything like that. So you typically will have these ingredients at your disposal. It's just getting creative with them. So let's say you want to start making charms. You need to make charms for stuff, but you don't have money to get all the herbs you need. One of the things that's really effective that I've seen a lot of people do is get like these herbal teas. So you get like a box of, like, this is like a variety pack. I think I paid $3 on it. And they basically are little charm bags already. So what you can do is you can brew a nice cup of tea, drink it, and then save the tea bag and all the herbs to do what you need. So again, it's just about knowing the purpose that you need and then reading the ingredients that are in each tea bag. And I'm not sure if they have these at the dollar store, but I know that like TJ Maxx, their grocery store, they're all going to have these. So let's say, like, for example, this one has chamomile, which is really good, blessing, calming, tranquility type thing. It's good for money and success. So this one already has that, so you have access to your chamomile. And then it has these blends that you can really cater to your purpose. Like, for example, this one has like this one called Lemon Zinger, which is hibiscus, rose hips, chicory, orange peel, lemongrass, lemon peel, lemon flavors. So this is a really bright, cleansing, like if you need to do like any kind of hex removing, or if you need to do any kind of exorcism stuff, you can hang little charms made out of these tea bags around your house, and that really bright lemony scent is going to drive away that negativity. Then there's one like honey vanilla chamomile, and it's got chamomile, orange peel, honey, licorice, chicory, lemongrass. This could be adapted into your love workings. It could be adapted into kind of like a more like lust, or even like a prosperity thing. So it would just be about knowing the properties of the herbs and then seeing which one best suits that, and then just going with it. Like I said, enjoy the tea. You can brew it, and you can make that spiritual as well. So you can use that as a way to kind of empower yourself as you're drinking the tea. You're taking in that intentions, and then you're going to work the herbs that you already have into the charm. And then just use, like, if you need to, you can use like old t-shirts, old sheets, old curtains, cut them up, make your charms out of those. Really, really easy. As far as like stones go, basically when you're looking at stones, stones do have a long history in magical practices, but it wasn't really about the stone itself. It was about the color. So a lot of cultures, even nowadays, especially in the Middle East, they will actually use glass, like colored glass. So it'll be like, let's say they need to ward off the evil eye, they'll use a blue colored glass because blue wards off the evil eye. Or they will literally just paint something blue. Like, for example, my sister made me this cool rock. So if you need like a stone to ward off the evil eye, just go out, get a rock from a forest or a crossroads, paint your evil eye on it, and there you go. If you need to do something for example, like love, you can paint it red, green, or pink. If you need to have a stone for prosperity, you can paint it gold or yellow. So don't limit yourself because you don't have like actual crystals, because that's not what it's about. It's not about, people think that it has to be a, all natural crystal that's, that was made in the earth and harvested from the earth. But synthetic crystals work, glass works, paint your stones, all that's going to work because it's about the color. It's about the intention that you're putting into it, and then that color is driving your intention. Most of the folklore associated with gemstones and stones actually does not have to do with the stone at all, because a lot of times the ancients would actually confuse stones. They would think that two different stones were the same stone. So because it wasn't about that. It was just about what color they were. So don't get hung up on getting crazy expensive stones. I mean, they are nice to have if you can afford them. I would say, treat yourself because they are beautiful. But if you're using them in a working setting, you do not need to go out of your way to get the most expensive gemstones. So the next thing, another thing that people usually say is they, don't have money to get like all the purpose incense. So like if you're doing a ritual and it's like, burn, planetary Saturn incense, all this stuff. You don't really need to do that. That's a suggestion. It's always good. One of the things that I did when I first started out is a lot of times if you go to, you can go to like TJ Maxx in the candle aisle, they'll have these boxes of random samples of incense cones or sticks. I usually like the cones just because you can just stick them in a cauldron and then it's like, looks like the cauldron is smoking and stuff. But they'll usually have like a variety of things like sandal. This is rose. I think this batch also came with patchouli and pine and amber. So let's say you need to have a money drawing incense or an incense that's aligned with, let's say, Mercury. You can use the pine, the pine incense cone, something like that. If you need to do one for love, you can use the rose. It's also aligned with Venus. So it's just about knowing the properties and the correspondences, and kind of, using what you got. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be these crazy ingredients. It can literally be these little store-bought, really inexpensive, very fragrant incenses. For oils, when I first started, oils was one of those things that was always going to be like a goal of mine to have essential oils. Little did I know that would haunt me now owning a store and all the freaking oils that we have. But I couldn't afford essential oils. So what I would do is I would actually take herbs and I would store them in, like I would make an herbal mixture for like, let's say money. And I would put it literally in spring water with a little splash of alcohol and I would shake it up. And whenever I needed an oil, whatever I would call for like a money drawing oil, I would use that herb infused water instead because it was all I had. I didn't have any kind of essential oil. You can use that to anoint things like candles. You can use it to anoint charms. So if you can't get oils right now, don't limit yourself. Make it. Just make it with whatever you have. If you need lavender oil, just literally steep some lavender in water and use that. Like it does not have to be complicated. Let's say you have a book and it's telling you how to do something and it's giving you this list of ingredients that you don't have, acclimate it to what you do have. So that's kind of like the gist of, oh yeah. So other things that you can do. I totally forgot. I have like this whole thing of like seasoning in front of me. But like if you have to do like protection stuff, these little like steak seasonings have everything you would need to do like protection or keep enemies away stuff. So I would highly recommend using this type of stuff in your work. It's got like the garlic and the pepper and the usually like let's see, this one has dill seed, coriander, red pepper, garlic, sea salt, brown mustard seed. So this is really good. Something like this could be used in work where you're driving away enemies, protecting your home. You can even like put this in a little bag and hang it in your kitchen. It'll keep the scent, those kitcheny smells kind of in your kitchen. That's also the hearth of a lot of our homes, so it's really good for that. You can sprinkle it around your house on the outside. So just using what you have in your cupboard. Just look at the ingredients. Always read your ingredients, and then kind of seeing what you can use it for. Yeah, and a lot of times you can get location stones too. Yeah, like from the beach, you can find crystals. Like, for example, if you need a stone for money drawing, you can get a stone from a bank. If you need a stone for healing, you can get a stone from a hospital. So just being creative, finding what you need for free a lot of times is, we do that a lot. Like, for example, a lot of our herbs we forage. So I foraged our hemlock and our belladonna. I've gotten all that. So yeah, just keeping an eye out. There's apps where you can identify herbs. So when you're out, if you see a herb or smell an herb that you kind of like, you can use the app, see what it is, see if you can use it. So yeah, everything that you have, stones, herbs, that's all around. It could be, you have access to everything you need to do your witchcraft. Aside from that, another thing that we want to instill is, while you can do these fixes, in no way are we saying that you should get comfortable in the position you're in. So, if you are struggling with money and you are struggling, to make ends meet, don't let that become your normal. Always try to do better. So the way that we built ourselves up, we went through really hard times, especially when the first recession happened in 2008. And we would make deals with our spirits. We would do our witchcraft, and we'd say, if you get us this, we'll reward you with this, and we'll upgrade something. So let's say you have a statue or a framed picture, and you say, okay, well, if you want a statue, help me get this job, and I will get a statue for you. And then once you get the job, you upgrade them to a statue. So this is like a good starting point. This is good for when you're in need to have a quick, simple fix. It is still very effective, so you don't by any means have to let go of all of this. Like, for example, I think we use most of our covered stuff in our workings anyways. But yeah, don't be too comfortable in your struggling. So always try to succeed a little bit more, and do that through your magic. So build a foundation with these easy fixes for what you need, and then kind of grow from there. So you want to constantly grow, you want to constantly evolve and better yourselves. Because if you're not bettering yourselves and you're not getting real results, there's no point in doing what we're doing. So is there any questions on anything that we've kind of gone over? Hopefully this was what you were looking for, as far as witchcraft on a budget. I wanted to cover everything. Again, this is stuff that I personally dealt with, so I kind of wanted to go through the things that I knew that I always wanted when I was starting out. So if there's any other questions or anything you want ideas on, I'm more than happy to kind of let you know. But don't be intimidated by when you see people's altars and when you see what other people are doing. First of all, a lot of it, like for example, when you see our altars, again, 80 to 90% of it was collected over time from thrift stores. It's from eBay or Etsy, just finding the best deals on things. And another great way, if you want herbs or more exotic things and crystals and statues, and you have access to a community like Witches and Heathens of Central New York, barter, trade services that you can do for these things. So you don't always have to be stuck with what you have. Affordable divination tools, it depends on your type of divination, but I honestly would make them yourself. Like, for example, rune sets are really easy to make yourself. My first few rune sets, and my actually best working ones, I made myself. Basically, you just go collect your 25 little rocks from wherever. I think the first set I got was from, for those of you who went to ESM, in the back of the lunch area, there was like this gravel area, and I took the stones from there, and I made my rune sets from that. And then I made another set from stones I collected in a graveyard, but also things like pendulums you can make yourself. So basically, the earliest form of pendulums was just a ring on a string. So something like that, just hanging a personal object off of a string or a chain. You can use necklaces as pendulums, and then write yourself out a board or make a board that you can use. Scrying, if you want to get a scrying mirror, literally all you have to do is get black paint. You can infuse it with different kind of magical herbs, or mixes. So let's say you brew a divination potion and you mix it with this black paint, paint it on the back of go to the dollar store, get a frame, paint the back of the glass black with this mixture of, it can even be like acrylic paint mixed with these ingredients, and then there you go, you have a scrying mirror. Also 5 dice. 5 dice is a really good divination tactic. So you just roll the dice, add up the numbers, and then figure out which the number means. That's one that I actually prefer, and I use that now. Then there was just one I was thinking of as I was saying dice. Oh, pennies. So you could do There's a lot of readings that, for example, like the Chamalongo in Paolo, the De Lagoon in Santeria. It relies on coconut shells that are up and down, so it's like heads or tails. We've seen people use pennies, so they'll use 5 pennies for that, and then kind of divining the pattern. You can even just use, have a lucky coin that you consult, heads or tails, yes or no answers with. So yeah, just get creative, and a lot of stuff you can definitely make yourself. In fact, it's a lot more effective if you do that. Any other questions? Yeah, and I think I have a Ouija board that I made back in 2003 that I still use. So all I did was I got a piece of plywood and then, wrote the letters on it, painted them, and used the upside down shot glass, and works perfect. Thank you so much, Andrew. Well, hopefully I could help people with this one. Like I said, it's something I've been through, so I know, what other people are probably going through. It is kind of intimidating, especially, when I was going through it, there wasn't social media, so I didn't get to constantly be bombarded with all these aesthetic images of altars and stuff. But slowly over time, you just build it up. And I have to say things like, I wish, back in the day, we only had 7 rays I think it was on Westcott. I don't think they're around anymore, but that's where I slowly started accumulating my herbs. I know that, my sister at Julie's Cauldron, if there was ever a store like that when I was, getting more into this, I would have went there, because like it gives you enough to do your working. So if you were to stock up on all the herbs that you would need, having access to an affordable size, like various sizes. You don't have to just get an ounce. You can kind of play around with how much you're getting. Like those types of shops that will do that are a lifesaver, especially in times like this when you need to be able to get a discount wherever you can. Also like places like Nature Time, they have really good deals on herbs a lot of the time, and you can kind of get. I think they might have essential oils there too, pretty cheap. If you need to get essential oils and you don't want to get like a whole cupboard full, get those blends. So get the like Tranquility blend or the Energizing blend, and then use those for things, because like Tranquility is going to have things like lavender and chamomile and things that you can use in peaceful home and cleansing stuff. Whereas like the Energizing blends are going to have more bright stuff like mints and citruses, and those can be used more as like a prosperity oil. So if you need to really save money, get blended oils, and you can get a lot of those at grocery stores too. There's definitely possibilities for all of this. But don't let a lack of financial resources be a hindrance on what you're doing. There's plenty of free sources online you can learn from. There's a lot of sellers reselling old witchcraft books. My preferred ones are the ones from like the 60s and 70s. I feel like those are the most legitimate as far as information goes, because a lot of them are actually compendiums or like treasuries of historic accounts of witchcraft, and then they kind of fuse it with Wicca, so it kind of made it practical, but you can use that to adapt in your workings. There's also sacredtext.com or .org, I can't remember what it is, but they have like the 3 books of occult philosophy. They have the Greek magical papyri. All the really ancient magical texts are going to be on there. So if you want knowledge, you do not have to spend all this money on books. You can get, the world is at your fingertips. There's a lot of reputable places you can actually learn from. If you want a book of shadows, you can just use a composition notebook. I know a lot of times like art will have sales on sketchbooks. We bought a lot of sketchbooks and turned them into grimoires. So you can do that too. Yeah, sacredtext.com. Yep. I absolutely love that site. If I need to quickly reference something and I want to pull it out of a book, I'll go there and find on page.
Sacred dash text.
Sacred dash text?
I'm going to put it on the comments.
Okay. But yeah, use what you have, and then when you're using what you have and you know that you're not in the position you want to be in, I feel like it will actually make you appreciate your witchcraft more. And then as you see yourself grow and as you see yourself progress and you see yourself collecting the things that you thought were just a dream, that you'd never thought you'd be able to afford or have, it's going to really secure your faith in what you're doing. It's going to really empower you. And every time, even these little steps, like I said, it could be like, making that deal with your spirits to get that job or to get, that business, and you get it. And then even if you get like 5 herbs that you've always wanted, that's still progress. That's still manifesting your will, and you're getting results from your witchcraft. So, yeah, constantly build. If you would have seen the way our altars looked when we started, it's insane how they have progressed, because we do exactly that. Every time we get blessings, we put it back into our altars, just a little bit. I mean, obviously, you're not going to spend all of your blessings on your altars, but yeah, just putting a little bit back into it, and then the energy will start flowing, and you'll start feeling it, and then until you're out of the position you were in, and it's all just a distant memory. So, any other questions, comments? All right, well, I don't see anything right now. Do you see any new comments or anything?
Not really.
All right, so I will let you all go. I'll be around, obviously, so if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions on future Sunday school sessions that you want us to cover, definitely put them in the group. We're always looking for ideas. If you're looking for a copy of my book, Liber Cathonia, I did stock Julie up at Julie's Cauldron, so she does have, I believe, 5 in stock right now, so you can just go pick them up. You don't have to wait for shipping. She already has them. You are also welcome. I always love doing these, so I can ramble and talk forever, but I was really trying hard to keep this within an hour, because the last time I kind of went crazy. So we're just getting to the hour. So I'll be around. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a good night, everyone. I'm going to try and figure out how to turn this on. Oh, that's awesome, Andrew. That's a pretty good gift. Hopefully you're liking it. So I will talk to everyone later. If I can figure out how to turn this off.